I am here to talk to you about client relationships and fostering tough love. I think I'd rather foster the relationship than the tough love because, nobody likes that kind of stuff. But it's necessary, and we have to learn how to do it, whether we want to or not. I'm really sorry that we can't have an exchange of information and conversation throughout the PowerPoint because I like the interruptions and I like the additions you make. I think that I will try to watch the chat, but I must say that I go into kind of a fugue state and simply follow my own slides because the slides will keep me on track to what I'm talking about. Otherwise, who knows what I'd start talking about. One thing I know for sure is that in the process of listening to all the other speakers, I wanted to ditch my whole slideshow and do something completely different because I've learned so much from you all. And, it is definitely an exchange of skills we have here. So I'm going to bring you the skill I have. And let me start the PowerPoint and we'll see where we go from there. Okay. It should be coming. Y'all see it now?
Yep.
Are we good? Okay. I won't be able to see the, hold on a second. I can't get into the reader mode because hold on a second. I'm just going to give you the entire screen and see if that works. Nope. Nope, found it. There we go. All right, now, here I am. We're going to talk about resilience in your editor and client relationships. But primarily, we're going to talk about establishing it and maintaining it, what you can learn to take to your client. Here I am. You see me in the corner and you see me in your face right there. I have a lot of experience as a publishing consultant. I've been editing for over 20 years, but that overlapped with my work with Big Five publishers. And we'll get into that in a second. But today we're going to talk about the soft skills for establishing good relationships that can have good results. Putting your best foot forward while you're fostering the relationship with your client is really what we're going to be talking about. Now, there are essentials across different types of roles. A lot of times you may not realize that you're already doing this. You already know how to establish a relationship, but this kind of conversation will help you just put it all together and take a look at it in one big bulk. We're going to talk about your responsibilities as an editor or as a client very briefly. It goes into a lot of personal choices, but we're going to touch on just the basics. And there's a bit about authority and resilience and tough love. Okay? All right. Here we go. This is my slightly different route to editing. Of course, I read a lot as a kid, like many of you, but I spent a lot of time selling. I spent over 35 years selling for publishers. After that, I took courses, I edited, I took more courses and webinars, and I read a lot of books because mostly I was selling them. That stack right there is the stack of catalogs that I would take into a book buyer to sell them my work. And you'll see in a couple minutes how that crosses over. All right, my perspective is with the roadware from selling. It demanded that I have productive relationships because I had 125 bookstores or more. I had, in that stack of catalogs, there was 800 to 1,200 titles per season, 2 or 3 times a year. And I had to deliver the book in 30 seconds or less so that I can get through them in 2 to 5 hours, depending on the size of the store. Sometimes it took longer, but Maybe that was because we went out to lunch or we got gabbing. Who knows? But I had to do all of that in 4.5 months because we did it 2 or 2.5 times a year. Now, how did I do all that? I did it by establishing trust with my buyer, demonstrating that I knew what I was talking about and that I knew the store. So I knew their store and I knew my materials. I knew who I was dealing with. Also, I could assess and acknowledge the buyer's needs. One of the conversations we had was that most of us could tell from the minute we walked into the door until we reached the buyer's desk how the store was doing. It took a lot of observation. It took a lot of road wear. We just did it over and over and over again. And I never knew when I started that I was going to end up knowing this. So it's just practice, 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 except it was not practice. I was forced into it. Okay, but while I was with the buyer, we were focused and efficient. We minimized the fluff. We didn't go off on tangents unless we really needed to. I wanted to express that I had respect for their time and for their attention and always be ready for problem solving. I can remember going into one of my stores in Ventura right after we changed warehouses, and the guy had a clipboard and a boatload of anger at the company. And I had to be ready to take that anger and take that information and actually turn out to be one of the first people to let the company know the problems. So you have to be ready for problem solvings. You have to be ready to adapt to whatever your client brings you. Now, that sounds like an editor, doesn't it? It transfers immediately to what I'm doing as an editor and consultant. I'm a book doctor. I'm a developmental editor. Also, as it turns out, all that time in the marketplace, I end up being able to do metadata, because while you writers sit at your screen writing 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 words, you don't know how to write 25. But years of 30-second presentations, it seems that I accidentally learned how to do that. But basically, I'm an editor, and I have to develop a relationship with my client before I move forward. What I'm doing is I'm triangulating the writer, the storyline, the context, the market moment. I'm looking at who they are, looking at their story. I'm looking at the combination of all these things. Okay? All right, but the major difference is that when I was dealing with a store, even though there was a tsunami of titles in the buyer's workflow, they didn't have the emotional connection that a writer has. And the one-on-one contact and the task that I have with my client, it involves that personal creative expression, and it connects to the vulnerability of the writer. It really demands that I be careful, because I have to respect them. Now, then when you add to this the complexity of personality traits and the unique neurodivergent traits of the editor and client, that's a lot. And I've had to learn quite a bit about who I'm dealing with. This was me this morning. Wait, what? I wanted to just see if it was not too late for a little pathological avoidance here, because there was so much to put in to whom I'm talking to. You're editors. Some of you are neurodivergent. You're dealing with clients that have all kinds of traits. And actually, that's what we do. We adapt to the traits of the client and ourselves that we deal with. All right, let's talk about establishing a resilient editor and client relationship. Okay, the buds are there to suggest that we're going to grow together, because I think we will. Okay, the editors, know thyself. Take some time to know who you are. You already do this, but take some time to identify yourself as the ideal reader. As the ideal editor, rather. We're going to know our skills and our strengths. We know our experience and our knowledge of the industry. We have a certain tone and a style of communicating, the practical side, the mechanical, and the emotional. And we have an ability to adapt to my client. These are the assets that we bring to our client. And this is what we are here to share with them. The better they know. Okay, and like a book's first pages, you have a little bit of time to show your client what you bring to the table for them. You want to bring value to them. So, these sessions have been really, really illuminating for me, that you all are very accomplished in understanding who you are and who you're dealing with. I'm so impressed. But even in a specific way, to show interest in your client and understanding of the project, to listen, always to listen, and to listen some more, and to make some relevant connections when you're talking to them. If they show an interest in something, pull something from the industry that reinforces that for them, because that enhances their respect for their own work. These are ways to demonstrate your value to your client. Okay. I'm sorry if there's anything in the chat, I'm not able to see it. We'll have to check it later. Thank you. Okay. Now, your best intentions as an editor is to show your client their strengths. You're really fostering the relationship. You enjoy their abilities and their limitations. It's not just that you know what they are, but you kind of celebrate them. You never know how a limitation can be an asset. You just don't know. It'll show up, but this is something for you to focus on, because it really is one of the writer's assets as well. Now, your job is to expand their efforts toward their own greatness. And while you're at it, show progress, show their growth, and respect their credibility. Because when you respect them, they will respect you. I think you know that already. You can demonstrate that in the grocery store line with the cashier. You show them respect, they will show you respect. All right, here's a few questions to ask, and I have to give a shout out for Laura's session. She really illuminated this beautifully. So go for the replay and listen to her again, because she did it better than I can. But we do it when we overlap. I like to ask questions like, what's in your mind for your book? How did you get your idea? What do you envision for your book? Then we talk about connections that we can make. Have you read this, or did you try that? And this is your way to insert your authentic self here. It's good to do it occasionally, but not throughout. You don't want to distract your task. Stay on task. But there are moments that you can go out. All right, your sample edit. You all have recommended sample edits, and I truly believe in them as well. But don't overlook the fact that this is your way to establish your connection, to show your skills, to show your understanding for the client, and to build their trust. You want to not only test the fit to see if you're well matched, but also to show them that your work is going to be valuable to them. And that's really important. I want to work with somebody who respects me and who will be valuable to me as I grow. And that's something to establish right away. As soon as you can. You do it in your introduction. You also do it in your sample edit. Okay. And for the writers among us, you have a responsibility to know yourself as well. You want to know what you need, what you're looking for in an editor. You already understand your quirks, but you might want to make sure that your editor is aware of them. It's optional whether you just share your triggers. But at least if you can't define your absolute goals, know what you wish for your manuscript or for your book. You wish it would work this way. You wish it would work that way. Everybody knows that we want to have it published, but how do we want to make it work? Okay? Take some time to recognize the skills that your editor is presenting to you. And at some point, you will allow that editor to show you things, to show you your potential. And it takes a release of some of your fears of working with this person. But if they have put you at ease, you can open up because you trust them already. And that trust is worth protecting and managing and keep very, very sound. Okay, where are we? Oh, at this point, we've agreed. A relationship can be successful because there is mutual trust, mutual agreement, mutual respect. That's the one. Okay. I had a sales manager who always said, if you're not spending time looking out the window, you're not doing your job. I have never forgotten this, and it had to be 25 years ago that he kept saying this. It really fits with everything we do. You need to take time to relax and get away from things and let whatever is in your mind to surface. It is part of editing where we wake up in the morning and we have solved the problem from yesterday. Sometimes that's why you can't charge by the hour. Or you sit at a red light. Or even you get angry because you've dropped a glass and broken it, and it inspires you to solve a problem in your project. But spending time to just relax really helps. To stop and reflect. Stop and reflect about how you're presenting your skills and whether you see a clear path with this client or whether the client sees a clear path with the editor. When you look at this and you can catch things before they happen, catch problems before they happen, you can renegotiate a few relationship items or even some task items. But always take a look and make sure that this is an opportunity to learn. As an editor, you're learning about yet another client and their quirks and their gifts, or it's your chance to examine what the weak spots might be and prepare for either solving them or filling them or bringing something to the table that will address these weak points. You doing okay here? Okay. All right. Once you get yourself established, you've got trust, you've got respect, this is the time for you to exercise your authority and to take the lead. Your client has come to you for your skills, so use that portion of her relationship. Oh, sure, I'll slow down. I'll try to, you'll have all these slides. I get it. I go into a fugue state where I'm simply rolling. And I will try to slow down. Forgive me, that comes from all those years of having to get so much done in so little time. Yes, of course. All right. This is an important slide anyway. Let's take time to exercise your authority and take the lead with your client. You're going to show that you have a knowledge base that's relevant to their project. You know the genre. You've edited similar projects. You share enthusiasms, and you know the relevance to the market. You're bringing all this experience to your client's table, and you're doing it because you have already persuaded them or demonstrated for them that you are here for them, for their project, for their ability. It's a focus that is based in nurturing. It's not based in authority. It's based in a nurturing and a cautious and careful support of your client. Okay. Some more things is that empathy is one of the most important points, most important skills that you bring with you. But while you're being empathetic, which is the warmth that you bring to your client, make sure they understand your process. Make sure they understand each point of your process, that you are ready to take on this. First, you do it, well, I'm a developmental editor, so I take the big view of it. First, I'm going to look at the big view, the whole thing, and see how it works. Then I'm going to look at the pieces. It'd be good to remind them that this is a partnership, and these are the tasks that you're going to approach their work with. You all know that we always have a fear of failure, but you can add humor to kind of to dissolve some of that. We all fail. It just happens, and none of us are perfect. That's how we're so interesting. While you're conversing through the process with your client, agree frequently on what is important. Agree that, yes, they want this to be really good. Agree that sometimes it's hard. Agree that you're both on the same page. You can't wait for it to work. You can't wait for that to fist pump when you get that plot point nailed. It's very important. And, there's a list that you can create to refer to as a guide. The plot points, when the plot points are right, we're going to celebrate. here's what we're going to do next. We're going to look at this portion next. Or when we get together next, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to review and go back and see if this character fits in this world. It's all part of the big picture process. But you can also do this in line editing for sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph. It goes in the same momentum. Okay. I think what you can acknowledge that your clients need and appreciate is soft landings. Be gentle, be clear, show empathy, and create a judgment-free zone. They want to have confidence in me as the editor, but I want to show confidence in them, in their skills, that they can write good sentences, that they can imagine a wonderful scene. That's important to keep reinforcing that they've got it. They've got a lot to work with. Maybe it's not working, but that's okay. They have it to begin with. That will help foster confidence in themselves with your acceptance and encouragement, okay? And here we go again. We acknowledge the strengths that these clients bring to their table. Acknowledge our strengths too. Whether you say, you know, I really love doing this part of it. I really love getting the world building right. You know, you're showing your enthusiasm for it rather than your criticism of it. Okay, and you're the pro. You're the pro. Here, you know, you're responsible to bring clear instructions, and, you know, a summary to revisit those instructions is really a healthy thing to have, because it's really easy to stray sometimes away from the task, or away from what you're trying to do, or away from your goals. There's a time to do that, but have a roadmap so that you can go back and see if you're going in the right direction. As the professional, you're also in a position to offer help for defining the goals. And as a writer, you can ask the editor. It's your relationship. Let the editor tell you, and let them answer your questions. Why isn't this world building working? What else can I do? You know, what do you think? As an editor, your job is to control yourself, not to control the client, because this is not a control relationship. It is a partnership. And one of the best things is to celebrate moments of mastery. When they get it right, it's really worth celebrating. Or if it shows up right, or if there's a portion of it that is really working, if there's a chapter that just spins right into the reader's ideas. It's quite wonderful. Okay, but here's an important addition that often people overlook. You are there as a professional to be a resource for the client. You are their link to the greater publishing marketplace. Yes, you are an editor, but be their link to good editing and to good examples of well-edited books or well-edited chapters or paragraphs. You are the pro. Be their resource. Be their guide to learn their way into the industry. You can use anecdotes. You can add sidebars to the conversation. You know, let me tell you about this book that I fell in love with because the first page was just so wonderful. You know, it seems that when you're working with an editor, the references to other books and other writers who have done something extremely well does not have to be a challenge. It doesn't have to be a criticism that they can't do it. It's a celebration of someone who's done it beautifully. And that becomes an inspiration rather than a criticism, which kicks back into the whole idea of fostering the relationship. Okay? There are connections that you can show of their work to industry activity. I think that if you're an editor, you're reading a lot and you're paying attention to what people like to read. So why not bring that into your client's world? Why not say that, hey, this kind of world building is really showing up. You know, this kind of character shows up this place and that place, and I've seen it done here and I've seen it done there, you're really on the right track, because readers like to read what they love, even if it's yet another dragon story and yet another rom-com, yet another thriller. They like to read what they like. So know what's going on in the industry so that you can bring them a feeling of relevance. Okay, here's just a little bit about feedback and tough love. Rule number one, as an editor, you know this, remind yourself all the time, this is not your book. I was contacted by a client that I had had several years before. 6 or 7 years later, he sent me his manuscript and he said, would you take a look at this? Because I've had it edited. I said, sure. I looked through the edit and the editor had messed with his voice. And I said, you know, we have to go back and put your voice back in. This is like rule number one. It's not your book. It's not your voice. It's the voice of the author. And that's what we have to collaborate to make better, to make that voice shine, to make it work. The relationship matters more than the task. So like I said, you're fostering a good relationship. Sometimes that's more important than the task. And you're going to aim for, in the best of situations, aim for insight over perfection. I think that I envy copywriters because you do know perfection. You do know what has to be right. You still understand the flow of the book and to keep it relevant to what the changes you're making, which is also another skill. But that you know all the rules. I'm so envious. You know all the rules. I don't know the rules. I depend on good copy editors. Okay. And here's some examples of what you can say to lead your client to maybe some suggestions. Every one of you who is an editor has your own set of scripts to ease your client into the changes that you're suggesting. I wish I could just have you throw them out to me so we could all share them. Maybe we can do that in the leftover time. But you can say, is there another way to say this? What would happen if I did this? Is this what you see your character doing? This is not making corrections to what they have said. It's an inquiry that, is this what you wanted? Or is there something else you wanted? Is there another way to get what you want? Is that what you intended to have your main character do? And also, tell me more about this choice that you made. The idea is not to say you're doing it wrong, not to say this doesn't work, but to use the suggestion as a way to explore what the writer has intended, what they're trying to say. Because sometimes, and I use this a lot, the story is in their head and it doesn't always get down to the paper. I know that there was one client and I said, you know, this is not working. Their answer was, hey, you're the pro. If you don't see it, if you see that something is not working, I missed doing something. That was the healthiest response I've ever received for my criticism or for my suggestion. She said, if you're not seeing it, I missed doing something. I need to go back and do it so that you can see what I intended. That story is up in the writer's head, and sometimes it doesn't get down onto the paper. That takes practice. And you know that there are authors who have a lot of books under their belt. They do it seamlessly. So this doesn't always address the authors who have a lot of experience. And the editor at that time, you're on the same wavelength, so you finish each other's sentences. That's a long-term relationship. Okay, this is the swerve. This is where you dodge something that's coming at you. I think there's a time when you recognize that you need to create a gap in the momentum for relief, for your relief, for their relief, just to refresh yourself. A moment to stop, review maybe, or just to refresh, just to get out of the momentum because something is happening when you squeeze down too hard. Some of the things you can say are, well, that was terrific. Do you want to keep going? Or do you want to stop for a minute? Should we take a breath? We've done X. We've done this. We've done a big job with this paragraph. We've done a big examination of the character. What would you like to do next? That opens the door for them to say, I want to go home, or I want to go get something to eat, or I want to take a breath. That's all part of being in the relationship where you are aware of your client and what they're going through. You're the one in control, not them. And here are some resilience factors to remember and to incorporate. You know, we are dealing with the most important task that the writer is often doing, something close to their heart, something really important to them. And you want them to bend. You don't want to break them. You also don't want to break yourself. But remember that when you exhibit the credibility and the success in dealing with it, you are showing that credibility because you've had challenges. You know the challenges, they don't scare you anymore. You know the challenges, you have solved them. And when you solve them and you're not afraid of them, then you're trustworthy because you don't freak out. You know, also, if you're going to freak out elsewhere. Let me read this from Jennifer. Yes, always ask. Oops, can you put that back up there? That was nice. I didn't have time to read it all. If there's something that happens with the relationship, it may not be your fault. There may be something going on outside. Maybe your client ghosts you, or doesn't pay you, or something like that. Give it a little time. Give it a little time, and then go back. But if it works out that you failed, yeah, take the failure. We all fail. We all have somebody who said, you know, that evaluation, that manuscript analysis was garbage. My husband could have told me that. Well, their husband might not have been able to tell you that, but that was their opinion, and that is important. So let that happen. I'm sorry those things happen, but that's their opinion. If there's something that you forgot to do, or you weren't strong enough to in the relationship to do, learn from it. You'll get it better the next time. Remind yourself, this is what you've done. You have served up all your skills, your commitment, and your determination to serve your client, to that client. It works. It works a lot of the time. And if it doesn't work, then you've gained more than you lost, you know? And sometimes there's a mystery. You don't know what happens. You don't know what went wrong. But consider the upside. You learn from it and you move to the next. You will take the credibility of having that challenge to the next client and the next client. It's always a learning process. Okay, that is it. I think we've got a few minutes left for questions, and let's see what we do. That's my cat pin. That's my Basquiat cat pin. I always think it's a struggle, but it's also purry and furry. So let me see what you all have to say in the chat. If I can find how to get out of here. Oops. Gonna lose me. Oh, are we back? Okay. I can see the chat now. Let me address Jennifer's question. Let's see. As a copy editor, you always ask, I see a sentence that I would like to rewrite for clarity. I might offer my version with something else, like this seems unclear. Maybe rephrase or something similar. Not my book, etc. That's exactly right. Your suggestions are, did you consider this? Or what if we did this? Or what if we turned it on its head and come up with something else? Are there questions? I'm sorry that I ran so fast, Elizabeth, but like I said, I get into a fugue state and I get wound up and I just go. I hope that I slowed down a little bit for you. The thing about having something on YouTube is that we do get to fiddle with the speed of it, whether we want to speed it up or speed it down. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Marnie has just had her first experience with struggling with the personal relationship with an author. You know what? Sometimes the author does not have the authority over their matter, over their subject matter. That's why you're there. You're there to find a way to take what they do know and make it better. You need to reset once it feels sour. Who does it feel sour to? To you or to the author? You know, maybe it's to you. Okay, don't underestimate your ability. Here's where you go back and you say, what am I skilled at? You are skilled at seeing that something is wrong. That's a major skill, because not only are you addressing the context of that genre and that author, you're bringing something really important to the table. So don't underestimate that. If it feels like that to you, take another look at your skills, take another look at their authority over that context, and see what might be going wrong. Maybe they've drifted. I think this falls under the heading of finding a tactful way to talk to them about something that's not working. You know, there are a couple of editor groups online that can be very helpful when you have a situation like this, because we all want to make sure you do it right, and we all want to make sure that you do all the best for your client. But the biggest thing is that don't underestimate your skill that you have already. It's part of writer. It's part of any creative expression, is that we feel like we're not good enough, and we are good enough, or else we wouldn't have spent so much time doing it. The other thing is that, you know, when you do it right, when you get that sentence that's right, celebrate it. Get that fist pump in, because the reason we are doing something this creative and this challenging and this layered is because we love getting it right. And you only feel this way because you love getting it right. So reframe your fear that you've failed to, you know, I'm afraid I just want it too much. You know, this is one of the things I say to a lot of my clients. You're afraid of something, but you're not really afraid of it. You really just have this energy because you want to do it right. That's desire. That's not fear. And part of desire is the joy of getting it right. So put away the fear of getting it wrong and go back to the joy of getting it right. And part of that for you in this situation is that you recognize that something was wrong. That takes skill. Don't underestimate yourself. Okay. All right. We're close to finished. Was there anything else? Any advice on how to be firm without getting into endless circular discussions full of examples? Oh, that's a really good one. You know, make your best example, and then if you have to, park it. Say, you know what, let's move on to another situation. Let's park that for a while and let it cook. Sometimes you have to have a problem and you have to let it cook a little bit. You have to let it simmer, because while you're squeezing down on that particular problem, you're forcing away something that may come up from the subconscious. So I think that you know, remember that you have to back away from some problems sometimes so that they can solve themselves. I believe in delays. Thank you, Heather. That's a nice compliment. Good. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be around anytime you want to talk. This is where we learn about ourselves. When you present a challenge to an editor, they're not just there to solve the challenge, but to also just to discover where they're good. You know, your challenges identify the places where you're strong. So don't be afraid of them. Let them come. And if they push you down, push back. Or if they push you down, let us pull you back. That seems to be a good way to end this. Thank you for being here. It's been fun. Oh, good. Infectious positivity. That infectious positivity is based on years and years of doing things wrong. I am not afraid to do things wrong anymore. And I hope the same for you. Because doing things wrong, it just educates you on what other solutions you can come up with. I hope I'll get a chance to talk to you again. Thank you.